Zechariah, or Zechariah, chapter 8. And the word of Yehovah of hosts came, saying, Thus said Yehovah of hosts, I shall be jealous for Sion with great jealousy, with great wrath I shall be jealous for her. Thus said Yehovah, I shall return to Sion, and I shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, and the mountain of Yehovah of hosts, the set-apart mountain. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, Again old men and old women shall dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, each one with his staff in his hand, because of great age, and the streets of the city shall be filled with boys and girls playing in its streets. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, If it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, should it also be marvelous in my eyes, declares Yehovah of hosts. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, See, I'm saving my people from the land of the sunrise and from the land of the sunset. And I shall bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, Let your hands be strong, you who are listening in these days to these words from the mouth of the prophets, from the day of the foundation was laid for the house of Yehovah of hosts, the Hakal, that was to be rebuilt. For before these days there was not a wage for a man, nor a hire for a beast, and there was no peace for him who went out or came in, because of his enemies. And I set all men one against another. But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yehovah of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace, the vine does give its fruit, the ground does give her increase, and the heavens do give their due, and I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit all these. And it shall be, as you were a curse among the nations, O house of Yehudah and house of Israel, so I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong. For thus said Yehovah of hosts, As I purposed to do evil to you when your fathers provoked me, declares Yehovah of hosts, and I did not relent, so again in these days I have purposed to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Yehudah. Do not fear. These are the words you should do. Speak truth to one another. Judge with truth and in right ruling, for peace in your gates. And do not plot evil in your heart against another, and do not love a false oath, for all these I hate, declares Yehovah. And the word of Yehovah of hosts came to me, saying, Thus said Yehovah of hosts, The fast of the fourth, and the fast of the fifth, and the fast of the seventh, and the fast of the 10th months are to be joy and gladness, and pleasant appointed times for the house of Yehudah, and they shall love the truth and the peace. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, People shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of the one go to another, saying, Let us earnestly go and pray before Yehovah and seek Yehovah of hosts. I myself am going. And many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yehovah of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before Yehovah. Thus said Yehovah of hosts, In those days 10 men from all languages of the nations take hold, yes, they shall take hold of the corner of the garment of a man, a Yehudi, saying, Let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. Chapter 9. The message of the word of Yehovah against the land of Hadrach and Damasek, its resting place, when the eye of man and all the tribes of Israel are on Yehovah. And Hamath also borders it, Sor and Sidon, though they are very wise. For Sor built herself a tower, heaped up silver like the dust and gold like the mud of the streets. See, Yehovah shall dispossess her, and he shall strike her power in the sea, and she shall be consumed by fire. Ashkelon sees it and fears. Azah, too, writhing in anguish, and Ekron, for her expectation is dried up. And the sovereign shall perish from Azah, and Ashkelon shall not be inhabited. And a mamzer shall settle in Ashdod. So I shall cut off the pride of the Philistines, and shall take away his blood from his mouth and the abominations from between his teeth, and he shall remain, even he, to our Elohim, and he shall be like a leader in Yehuda, and Ekron like a Jebusite. And I shall encamp around my house against an army, against him who passes by and him who returns, so that no oppressor passes through them again. For now I've seen with my eyes. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. See, your sovereign is coming to you. He is righteous and endowed with deliverance, humble and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. And I shall cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off. And he shall speak peace to the nations, and his rule is from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth. Also you, because of the blood of your covenant, I shall send your prisoners out of the pit. Return to the stronghold, you prisoners of the expectation. Even today I declare that I return double to you. For I shall bend Yehuda for me, I shall fill the bow with Ephraim, and I shall stir up your sons, O Sion, against your sons, O Greece, and I shall make you like the swords of a mighty man. And Yehovah shall appear for them, and his arrow go forth like lightning, and the Master Yehovah sound with the shofar, and he shall go with whirlwinds from the south. Yehovah of hosts shall shield them, and they shall devour and trample on a sling with stones, and they shall drink, roar as if with wine, and they shall be filled like basins, like the corners of the slaughter place. And Yehovah their Elohim shall save them in that day as the flock of his people, for the stones of a diadem, sparkling over his land. For what goodness is his, and what comeliness is his. Grain make the young men thrive, and new wine the maidens. Chapter 10. Ask Yehovah for rain in the time of the latter rain, Yehovah who makes storm clouds. And he gives them showers of rain, the plants in the field to everyone. For the household idols spoke emptiness, the diviners saw falsehood, and relate dreams of deceit. They comfort in vain, therefore they wandered about like sheep. They are afflicted, for there's no shepherd. My wrath burns against the shepherds, and I lay a charge against the leaders. For Yehovah of hosts shall visit his flock, the house of Yehuda, and make them like his splendid horse in battle. From him comes the cornerstone, from him the tent peg, from him the battle bow, from him every ruler together. And they shall be like mighty men who trample down the mud of the streets in the battle, and they shall fight because Yehovah is with them, and the riders on horses shall be put to shame. And I shall make the house of Yehuda mighty, and save the house of Joseph. And I shall bring them back, because I have compassion on them, and they shall be as though I had not pushed them aside. For I am Yehovah their Elohim, and I answer them. And Ephraim shall be as a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as if with wine, and their children shall see and rejoice, their heart exulting in Jehovah. I shall whistle for them and gather them, for I shall ransom them, and they shall increase as they once increased. Though I sow them among peoples, they shall remember me in places far away, and they shall live together with their children, and they shall return. And I shall bring them back from the land of Mitzrayim, and gather them from Asher, and bring them into the land of Galaad and Lebanon, until no more room is found for them. And he shall pass through the sea of distress, and strike the waves of the sea, and all the depths of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Asher shall be brought down, and the scepter of Mitzrayim be taken away. And I shall make them mighty in Yehovah, so that they walk up and down in his name, declares Yehovah. Chapter 11. Open your doors, O Lebanon, and let fire devour your cedars. Howl, O cypress, for the cedar is fallen, because the mighty are ravaged. Howl, O oaks of Bashan, for the dense forest has come down. Listen, the howling of shepherds, for their splendor is ravaged. Listen, the roaring of lions, for the pride of the Yarden is ravaged. Thus said Yehovah my Elohim, feed the flock for slaughter, whose owners kill them and feel no guilt, and their sellers say, blessed be Yehovah, for I have become rich, and their own shepherds do not spare them. For I shall no longer spare the inhabitants of the land, declares Yehovah, but see, I am delivering up mankind, each one into his neighbor's hand and into the hand of his sovereign, and they shall crush the earth, but I do not deliver from their hand. So I shepherded the flock meant for slaughter, the truly poor of the flock, and I took for myself 2 staffs. The one I called pleasantness, and the other I called unity, and I shepherded the flock. Then I sent off the 3 shepherds in 1 month, for my being despised them, and their being also loathed me. So I said, I'm not shepherding you. Let the dying die, and the straying stray, and let those who are left eat each other's flesh. And I took my staff, pleasantness, and cut it in 2 to break the covenant which I had made with all peoples. So it was broken on that day, and the poor of the flock who were watching me knew that it was the word of Yehovah. And I said to them, if it is good in your eyes, give me my wages, and if not, refrain. So they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver. And Yehovah said to me, throw it to the potter, the splendid price at which I was valued by them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of Yehovah for the potter. Then I cut into my other staff, unity, to break the brotherhood between Yehudah and Israel. And Yehovah said to me, take again the implements of a foolish shepherd. For look, I'm raising up a shepherd in the land who does not visit those straying, nor seek the young, nor heal those that are broken, nor feed those that still stand. But he does eat the flesh of the fat and tear off their hooves. Woe to the worthless shepherd, forsaking the flock. Let a sword be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall wither, and his right eye shall be dimmed. Chapter 12. The message of the word of Yehovah against Israel. Yehovah stretching out the heavens and laying the foundation of the earth and forming the spirit of man within him declares, see, I am making Jerusalem a cup of reeling to all the peoples all around, and also against Yehudah. It is in the siege against Jerusalem. And in that day it shall be that I make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples. All lifting it are severely injured, and all the nations of the earth shall be gathered against it. And that day, declares Yehovah, I strike every horse with bewilderment, and its rider with madness, And on the house of Yehuda I open my eyes, but every horse of the peoples I strike with blindness. And the leaders of Yehuda shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem are a strength to me, through Yehovah of hosts, their Elohim. And that day I make the leaders of Yehuda like a fire pot among the trees, and like a torch of fire in the sheaves, and they shall consume all the peoples, all around, on the right and on the left, and Jerusalem shall dwell again in her own place in Jerusalem. And Yehovah shall save the tents of Yehuda first, so that the comeliness of the house of David and the comeliness of the inhabitants of Jerusalem would not become greater than that of Yehuda. In that day Yehovah shall shield the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the feeble among them in that day shall be like David, and the house of David like Elohim, like the messenger of Yehovah before them. And it shall be in that day that I seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem, and I shall pour on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of favor and prayers. And they shall look on me whom they pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and they shall be in bitterness over him as a bitterness over the firstborn. In that day the mourning in Jerusalem is going to be great, like the mourning at Hadad Rimmon in the valley of Megiddo. And the land shall mourn, every clan by itself, the clan of the house of David by itself, and their women by themselves, and the clan of the house of Nathan by itself, and their women by themselves. The clan of the house of Levi by itself, and their women by themselves. The clan of Shammai by itself, and their women by themselves. All the rest of the clans, every clan by itself, and the women by themselves. Chapter 13. In that day a fountain shall be opened for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for sin and for uncleanness. And it shall be in that day, declares Yehovah of hosts, that I cut off the names of the idols from the earth, and they shall be remembered no more. And I shall also remove the prophets and the unclean spirit from the earth. And it shall be, when one prophesies again, then his father and mother who brought him forth shall say to him, you shall not live because you have spoken falsehood in the name of Yehovah. And his mother and father who brought him forth shall pierce him through when he prophesies. And it shall be in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his vision when he prophesies, and not put a hairy robe on in order to deceive, but shall say, I am no prophet, I am a farmer, for a man sold me as a slave in my youth. And one shall say to him, what are these wounds in your hands? And he shall say, because I was struck at home by those who love me. O sword, awake against my shepherd, against the man who is my companion, declares Yehovah of hosts. Strike the shepherd and let the sheep be scattered, but I shall turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall be throughout all the soil, declares Yehovah, that 2/3 therein are cut off and die, and 1/3 is left therein. And I shall bring the third into the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I shall answer them. I shall say, this is my people, while they say, this is my Elohim. And chapter 14. See, a day shall come for Yehovah, and your spoil shall be divided in your midst, and I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem, and the city shall be taken, the houses plundered, the women ravished, Half of the city shall go into exile, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And Yehovah shall go forth, and he shall fight against those nations as he fights in the day of battle. And in that day his feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west, a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall move toward the north and half toward the south. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountain, for the valley of the mountains reaches to Atzel. And you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah. And Yehovah my Elohim shall come, all the set apart ones with you. And in that day it shall be, there's no light, it's dark. And it shall be one day which is known to Yehovah, neither day nor night, but at evening time there shall be light. And in that day it shall be that living waters flow from Jerusalem, half of them towards the eastern sea and half of them towards the western sea, in summer as well as winter. And Yehovah shall be sovereign over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yehovah, and his name one. All the land shall be changed into a desert plain from Gabah to Ramon, south of Jerusalem, and she shall be raised up and inhabited in her place. From Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the winepresses of the sovereign. And they shall dwell in her, and there shall be no more utter destruction. But Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this is the plague with which Yehovah plagues all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall decay while they stand on their feet, and their eyes decay in their sockets, and their tongues decay in their mouths. And it shall be in that day that a great confusion from Yehovah is among them, and every one of them shall seize the hand of his neighbor, and his hand rise up against his neighbor's hand. And Yehudah shall fight at Jerusalem as well, and the wealth of all the nations round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and garments in great quantities. So also is the plague on the horse, on the mule, on the camel, and the donkey, and on all the cattle that are in those camps, as this plague. And it shall be all that were left from all the nations which came up against Jerusalem, they shall go up from year to year to bow themselves to sovereign Yehovah of hosts, and to celebrate the Festival of Sukkot. And it shall be that if any one of the clans of the earth does not come up to Jerusalem to bow himself to the sovereign Yehovah of hosts, on them there is to be no rain. And if the clan of Mitzrayim does not come up and enter in, then there's no rain. On them is the plague with which Yehovah plagues the nations who do not come up to celebrate the Festival of Sukkot. This is the punishment of Mitzrayim and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to celebrate the Festival of Sukkot. And that day, set apart to Yehovah, shall be engraved on the bells of the horses, and the pots in the house of Yehovah shall be like the bowls before the slaughter place. And every pot in Jerusalem and Yehudah shall be set apart to Yehovah of hosts. And all those who slaughter shall come and take them and cook in them. And there shall no longer be a merchant in the house of Yehovah of hosts in